Hello everyone and welcome back to the Neuroscience and Beyond podcast. I'm Svilen, a PhD student in molecular and cellular neuroscience at the University Medical Center Göttingen in Germany. Along with my incredible team of graduate students, we are on a mission to bring the wonders of science, especially neuroscience, closer to you. We're excited to announce that our new podcast studio at the European Neuroscience Institute in Göttingen is slowly coming together. We look forward to hosting many more inspiring guests in this upgraded space. Our upcoming episodes were recorded during the Neurosciences conference in Göttingen. In today's episode, we're thrilled to have Dr. Sandy Rathod with us. Dr. Rathod is the CEO of NeuroReality, a company that transforms cognitive rehabilitation through VR experiences. We're going to learn about the exciting tools from NeuroReality and how this company helps patients recover from neurological impairments. Dr. Rathod will also share her unique insights on balancing her roles as university lecturer and CEO, uncovering the skills and strategies needed to successfully navigate and merge the worlds of academia and business. Before we begin, I'd like to mention that this podcast is a separate activity from my position at the University Medical Center Göttingen in Germany. This podcast is supported by the International Max Planck Research School for Neurosciences, the Cluster of Excellence Multiscale Bioimaging, as well as the European Neuroscience Institute in Göttingen. If you also want to support us, please subscribe to our channel and do not hesitate to drop us a comment under our videos. And now, dear listeners, please enjoy the talk with Dr. Sandy Rathod. Welcome to our podcast, Dr. Rathod.
Thank you. Call me Sandy, please.
Sandy, sure. Thank you, Sandy, for coming here and being with us today. We have Neurosciences going on, which is a student conference, and we had the pleasure to have you as a guest. And of course, we extended the invitation, which you accepted. And I'm very, very, very keen on our discussion. I would like to hear more about you, more about the company that you're working at, more about your experience, and of course, about the transition from academia to the industry. Before we embark on this journey, could you please tell us more about yourself? What is your background? I know that you have a degree in consumer behavior. And how come that you switched from this field to the position that you are at right now?
Well, how did I switch from consumer behavior to what I do right now? I would say that consumer behavior informs almost everything that I do. And using my behavioral background, I can help us better target and market and better execute on our vision. Mm-hmm. So I've done that for many companies for a long time. This is what I do naturally. I always walk in the world between academia and industry, and this is just one more example of that.
That is very exciting. But can you elaborate what actually the work about in the field of consumer behavior is? Because we are mostly life scientists here and we are unaware of this field at all.
Okay.
And I would be very keen on finding out more about it.
So consumer behavior is really the simple explanation is that it's the marriage of marketing and psychology and putting them together to understand how people make decisions and specifically then around the products that they use. Mm-hmm. Specifically, my research was about consumer identity, and that is how we use products to enhance our identity, both within ourselves, but also how we express ourselves to others.
That's very interesting. For me, it's a completely new field. And I don't know, I have a different background actually in economics where I touched upon a little bit of neuroeconomics. Mm-hmm. I don't know, did you have this type of courses during your...
I went to school a long time ago. Yeah. I did not have neuroeconomics back then.
Okay.
So I have done some work with it more recently.
Yeah, but it's really interesting.
It is so interesting.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. But I decided to go 100% in the field of neuroscience, and for that I wanted to get another degree and inform myself on the biology of the human brain, etc. And then I ended up now doing my PhD. So you also are now in a different situation in this company called NeuroReality, right? And the company is very interesting because it tries to help people recover, or correct me if I'm wrong, right? You use very interesting tools to do that. And I'd like to ask you to share with us what is actually the let's say not the purpose, but the mission probably of your company, and what are you doing at NeuroReality right now?
Well, what we do at NeuroReality is we use a gamified approach to cognitive rehabilitation. It's based on tried and true neuroscience paradigms that are used in rehabilitation all the time. And we put it in a virtual reality environment. And why do we do that? Because it takes away all the distraction, and it makes rehabilitation fun. Mm-hmm. It also allows for treating more patients with the same amount of resources, because we know that in the future, and even now, there is going to be a bigger and bigger shortage of medical professionals. Mm-hmm. So we need to find new and innovative solutions.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. So you have a kind of a game mm-hmm. that is coded into this virtual reality glasses, mm-hmm. and then your patients, they use it to recover their cognitive abilities after trauma or different events. Is that true?
Yes. So originally, Koji's Quest, that's the name of our product, mm-hmm. it was created specifically for stroke survivors. Mm-hmm. However, to date, most of our patients that we're working with have other conditions. We work with people who have ADHD, or who are on the autism spectrum, or who have suffered from long COVID. We're also doing some research with little children who have neurodevelopmental issues, and also people who have neurodegenerative issues.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it's like a very broad spectrum of
and it's so
patients.
Interesting how that happened, because really we had a very specific purpose for our product. And when we would go talk to investors, they would say, no, you need to focus. And actually, we are very focused. We know exactly what we're doing. And what I think is really magical about what we've done is that when we take it out and we talk to neuroscientists or neurorehabilitation specialists, they find all kinds of different uses for it. They find it useful for different patient populations. Mm-hmm. So it's really exciting. We're even talking to a company related to, they're excited about working with young athletes, and they're talking about how we could use Koji's Quest to help kind of optimize their cognitive profile for playing football, for example.
Mm-hmm. Koji's Quest, where does the name come from?
Koji's Quest. Let's see. So the founder of the company, Fabiola, she calls herself Mother of Rottweilers. And Kenji is one of her Rottweilers, and Mojo was her past Rottweiler, and it's a combination of their two names.
I see. So there is some sentiment to the whole story. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what is this game, if you know, or product that you are offering in terms of Koji's Quest, right?
So Koji's Quest is a virtual reality environment. There are different worlds. There's a tree of life in the main environment, and in that tree patients can see their progress. Mm-hmm. So if they're doing really well in attention or executive function, then more flowers are on the mm-hmm. tree that represent those different cognitive domains. Then we have attention, which happens in outer space. So there's selective attention and divided attention. You're playing like you're an astronaut and you're doing different tasks. And in every game, it gets more and more difficult as you continue to progress in your abilities. In the Mystic Lake, we train executive function. In the underwater world, we train memory, long-term, short-term, and working memory. In the Mayan temple, we train visuospatial skills. So there are all kinds of different environments that you can go to, and you train different skills. And the idea is that it there's dynamic difficulty progression, so that so that it automatically increases to keep up with you. So you're constantly able to achieve, but you're always challenged.
So there is a different modality, if you want, for a particular problem. If you want to train your attention, you go to kind of this part of the game. Let's call it the game, right? Or the software. If you have different problems, you have different kind of treatment, right? This is very interesting. And do you offer also, I assume, like combinations for the different treatments?
Absolutely. Of course. So it all comes together in a single package. And then depending on what your needs are, we assume that you work with a clinician. You don't have to. You can just play Koji's Quest as a normal, healthy individual if you like. But the way that we intended it to be used originally was that your clinician would work with you and determine what was the best focus areas for you based on what your cognitive needs were. And we have a clinical dashboard, so the clinician can create what we call quests, and they can send you to those different places in the world. And once you play the quests, then you have the ability to play whatever else you want to.
So you're working tightly together with clinicians, right? How does it work? So let's say I'm a patient who needs treatment after having a stroke, for example, and do I approach you, or do my clinician approach you, or both? How does it work?
Right now, it happens both ways. It just depends. Usually, we work with a clinician, and a clinician will decide if a patient is appropriate to use Koji's Quest, and if they think they can benefit from it. But we do also have patients who contact us, take initiative and contact us, and then sometimes we work directly with their clinician, or we will work directly with them.
I see. Do you have also clinicians in your company?
We have a rehabilitation specialist, and we have an advisory board that has clinicians.
Yeah. And as long as I remember, the person who started it, she is also a neuroscientist background.
She has a master's
right?
in neuroscience,
yes. I see.
Absolutely.
Very nice. Everything around the brain.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. But so you mentioned you started treating people after having a stroke, and now it kind of developed and you go into different directions. How about the children? You just briefly touched upon this developmental aspect. What kind of offers are there for children with some developmental problems, for example?
So the children play these games also to help improve their cognitive functions, and right now we're doing several research studies to prove the efficacy of Koji's Quest on these different populations.
This was actually my next question, if you wish. I was curious about how do you assess, for example, the effects of the treatment? Are there any questionnaires that the patients fill out, or are there any other measurements like subjective, blood testing or other physiology tests?
It really depends on whatever the researcher has designed, but at this point we use different well-accepted neuropsychological testing, questionnaires and things that are done before and at the end of treatment. So what we recommend is 3 or 4 times a week, 45 minutes session for about 6 weeks. So typically then there's other kind of testing that's done prior to that and after.
So it's really like objective, tested.
Tested.
Yeah. Very good, very interesting. And I was always curious about, I have never used virtual reality glasses,
you haven't?
right? I haven't used.
Oh, I wish I had some with me. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. But I'm always afraid that I will react, a little bit in the real life and hurt myself or something. How do you ensure, or do you advise?
Actually, that did happen once. Not with Koji's Quest, but with something else. Yeah.
How do you guys advise your patients to not do that, for example?
Actually, like I said, Koji's Quest was originally created for stroke survivors. And the stroke survivors that Fabiola had worked with had quite some long-lasting effects. So we made sure that we built safety into everything we did. So Koji's Quest is meant to be played while seated. While sitting down or seated. So right now, the only movement that occurs really is head movement and upper limbs. But we're working on building integrating sensors for the legs so that still people can be sitting down, but they can be also exercising their lower leg extremities.
So in the sense that they're sitting, they're moving their lower extremities, but they're not walking in the room or something.
Right, they're not moving around. They're in a seat or standing still.
That's very important, as I said,
Yes.
not for people like me. What about the children? They're like hard to, get them on the sofa or something to sit.
Actually, they don't have to be seated. They can be standing, but the point is that they don't have to be moving around. It's not one of those VR games where you have to move around a lot or do anything special. So as long as you stand or you sit in a relatively safe place, then you're fine.
That's great then, maybe. Try it. Do you guys develop your own hardware or you collaborate with some other company? I mean, the glasses, right?
Right. So right now we run on Meta and we run on Pico Neo.
So these are two different providers.
Yes.
I see. And you basically have people who work on the writing of the gaming.
Code base, yes.
And then I see. People who kind of assess and not assess, but probably give input regarding the scientific or healing process of the game, right? Is this correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
We have a clinical advisory board that we check our assumptions with, and we're always reading the latest scientific research to make sure that we're up to date and integrating the most
I think this is a great device for teaching. I think virtual reality will be a game changer, especially for let's say medical teaching, anatomy, to see the parts of the body in kind of a 3D and explore.
It's incredible what they can do, actually. And
right?
if you think about, part of what we intend to do is build psychoeducation into Koji's Quest also, and really help people understand what's going on with their brain, why they're feeling the symptoms that they're feeling, and showing them 3D versions of their brain and maybe where their lesions is or whatever is happening in their brain. So it is amazing what can happen in virtual reality.
Do you guys do that right now? Do you develop this?
We don't have it right now, not ourselves, but actually we know some collaborators that we're planning on working with who have this kind of technology.
That is great. I'm keen on finding more about it because I'm also into communicating of how the brain works and why is it important to study it and all the research, all the diseases, all the health aspects if you want, and it's a fascinating and extremely complex topic.
It is amazing how complicated it is. And what I find so fascinating is as much as we know, we're learning more and more all the time.
Yeah, it's a lifelong learning quest. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Are you guys present only in the Netherlands? I mean, I know you're based in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. Do you have some locations around the world or collaborators?
We're based in the Netherlands, of course. We have an office in California, in Marietta. We also do work in Canada, right now in Spain, and also we're working with the university in Greece.
Oh, wow. So there's a lot going on.
Yes, and we're going to start working in the Nordics soon.
In the Nordic. Okay. So you're expanding and you are working hard to expand even more, right? Because, yes. I mean, you're the CEO of the company, correct?
I am the CEO of the company.
What is as I said, we are life scientists, and people who watch this podcast are mostly like science-related or academia-related people. Mm-hmm. What is a daily life of a CEO? How does it look like in your case?
It doesn't look much different than an academic.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say. Yeah. We were talking during my talk at Horizons, and that was really the question, right? What what is it like? How is it different? And I would say that they are very similar. I think that the passion level needs to be the same. I think you have to love what you do. I think you have to get up every day and push through those challenges that you have, and it just make it happen. I mean, of course, I'm focused on business things, but you work hard just like you do in academia.
Exactly. I think I totally agree. I mean, I've heard, of course, from friends, and I've read about it, and I think it doesn't matter in which domain you are working at. Is it business? Is it academia? Is it sport, music? If you want to be successful, you need to really put effort, time, and sometimes sacrifice your plans in order to, achieve more success. But of course, this is a personal kind of character opinion, if you wish. How much do you want to, sacrifice your personal life? Although, what is your personal life, right? Work is also a huge part of it.
Work is also a huge part of your personal life. I think, especially when you have when you're running and growing a small business. Those people that you work with, they really become your family, and they are the people that you rely on day to day. So those relationships are invaluable.
How do you approach this kind of a problem or opportunity to expand? You're based in one country, and then suddenly you grow and grow and grow and grow. How do you manage like this kind of process, going abroad and then dealing with other culture, other people, language, then building team there? Can you please share your insights?
Well, I also teach international marketing, and I teach it in first year. So marketing is marketing no matter where you go. And if you understand the foundations, then when you go to a new country, of course, you have to understand that culture. But in every country that you're in, there are subcultures that you also have to understand. So my way of looking at it is that I'm just doing a thorough job, and maybe there are some additional variables that I need to take into account when I'm doing work in Spain, for example, or when I'm doing work in India or in the Nordics. Of course, there are cultural differences that need to be accounted for, but this is just marketing. This is just understanding people, and that's what my background is. So somehow it's kind of innate to me.
Yeah. That's great. Really, really. I love marketing, actually. It's something that also scientists need to learn, in my opinion, because scientific communication is important. And if you want to make aware about the public about your research, you need to be able to communicate, right? Your kind of results. Why do you do that? What is the purpose of this? And I really think that scientists can do a little bit better in terms of marketing. A personal opinion. But speaking of marketing, how did it happen that you work as a CEO in a company and then teach also at the university? Was it like a process that you wanted always to teach, or did it happen like spontaneously?
Actually, I always wanted to walk between the two worlds. So when I moved back after I had lived in the Netherlands the first time, I found the letter that I had written to get into my PhD program. And in that letter, and I really wish that I had had it today for that talk, because in that letter, it literally talked about my wanting to walk between the worlds and use my research and my academic knowledge to help companies do better work and solve their problems. And so that's exactly what I do. So for me, one informs the other. And I think that being an academic makes me a better business person, and being a business person makes me a better instructor for my students.
It's like a win-win. And
absolutely.
Yeah. That is indeed the case. And what would be your advice to young people who would like to share this path? For example, they also want to go and experience both worlds. How do you do that? Is there a recipe, right?
This is a question that I get asked a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a recipe, and I don't actually think that there's an easy answer. I have given up a lot to walk the path that I walk and live the life that I live. And I think my life is amazing, but I don't think it's for everyone. I think I've made a lot of personal sacrifices to follow my passion, and I would do it all again every single time. But it's hard, and you have to make hard choices sometimes, and you have to be true to yourself and follow your own values.
That is correct. How do you feel about work-life balance?
I have none. I have no work-life balance. No, that's not true. It's easy for me to get lost in my work. And one of my goals recently has become is to have a better work-life balance. So I'm actively working on bringing more joy to my life through doing nice things. I have a fabulous group of friends. I have an amazing family. But for example, my son had just gotten engaged this summer, and they planned an engagement party in October. And they planned it in plenty of time so that, I could be there. And I kept thinking, okay, I have to go. I have to go. Cannot cancel. Important. I was there, and it turned out that it was not actually their engagement party, but it was a surprise wedding.
Oh, wow.
So, and they looked at me and said, we were so afraid you were going to cancel on us. Not that I cancel a lot, mind you, but there have been a couple of times when, I had big deadlines for work coming up, and I would be talking to the kids, and they'd say, oh, Mom, it's okay. You don't have to come. It's all right. We understand. And one time they said it once too often, and I said, okay, I'm not coming home for Christmas. And they've never forgiven me yet. So I don't do those things anymore.
Yeah, that's great though. More spend time with your family, more social life. This is also good for your brain health.
It is very important for your brain health.
Yes. Among sleep and healthy diet.
I make sure I sleep. I make sure I have a healthy diet. My son has calculated my macros. I'm working on it.
And sport.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. So we want to live until 100 years at least.
At least. I have much to do, so I need to keep going.
Yeah, that is true. So going back to the company, you're offering patients a highly sophisticated and rather expensive product. I don't know what is the cost of the treatment, and this is not the purpose of my question. I would like to ask you, how do you ensure that you deliver this kind of a product that is a reasonable price, but also has a good effect in terms of treating the patients?
Well, that is kind of the beauty of creating software. You create it, and then you sell it for whatever value consumers are willing to pay for it, right? That's what marketing is all about. How do you understand the value that your product has? And our goal at NeuroReality is to create accessible options for people. Because not only can rehabilitation be very costly, but it can also be very lengthy, and it can there can be long wait periods before you can actually get into rehabilitation specialists. So some clinicians are using our product during that long wait period while they can't actually do the intensive training with their patients.
So when they're treated with this kind of method, are they also taking any other medication, or are they subjected to other treatments, or this is like a separate one that is in between phases, for example?
This is completely separate from what we do. So perhaps they are taking medication or they're doing other things, but we're really focused on just providing the cognitive rehabilitation for them and working with their clinicians to make sure that they're getting the treatment that they need.
Okay, we have been talking about treatment, right? What about, let's say, enhancing of abilities, let's say memory or reaction time, attention? Do you guys also offer some kind of a part of the quest in this regard?
So ultimately, we will move into that market. That is part of the plan. But at this moment, we're really focused on more the rehabilitation aspects of our product.
I'm keen on finding also more about this enhancement. You know, it's very trendy right now.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
incredibly trendy.
Yeah.
It's so funny because, I talk to people about lumosity. You know lumosity, don't you?
Actually, I don't know. I haven't heard about it. Huh?
Okay, I do not understand this. Lumosity has been around since, okay, now I'm doing commercial for Lumosity. Lumosity has been around since about, I think, 2012, maybe 2010. And they do all kinds. They have all kinds of computerized, digitized brain training apps that are really cool and fun. They're not like ours. They're not in VR, but they're super cool. And they were originally created to enhance people's cognitive functions.
I see, but it's not like that interactive as your product, for example. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's different than
different
our
scale,
product.
different
Completely.
scale.
Yes.
But I think the VR it's adding a little bit more, even a lot more to the
The VR
to the training.
adds a lot more to it. And the ability that we have to personalize your training. Not only can you train at different levels, certainly, but ultimately you'll be able to change the environment that you train in and really create it just how you need it to be. So right now we have modifications for sound. We have modifications for the amount of distraction that occurs in the background, depending on what you prefer. You can change the lighting, but ultimately we will make it so that it is that you can really customize the environments that you're in, so that you can be more comfortable and happy in your training.
You know, I was thinking about this. It's a little bit like speculation, question, or whatever. So the virtual reality, you need this device to put it on. Do you know, or what do you think, how far are we of inverting this process? What do I mean? Like, imagine we have here some 3D hologram and you are interacting with this hologram instead of putting the device on you. Are you aware of this kind of things? Is there anything out there like this already?
I am aware of these kinds of things. I think the technology is advancing rapidly, and we still don't know in which direction it's going to go. We don't know if it's going to be VR that's ultimately going to take off, or if it's going to be augmented reality, or if it's going to be some kind of hologram. But it will be something that is much more cool than what we have today. And I think that as wonderful as virtual reality is, there are a lot of limitations. When we first started creating it, I mean, just in the 7 years that we've been around, the virtual reality goggles have changed so much. And I remember I used to put the goggles on, and I'm a relatively small person, and I used to talk to our developers about, guys, okay, we're creating this for people who have had a stroke. Most of these people are over the age of 65. They're elderly people. As soon as you tilt your head and you have this extra weight, that is adding so much extra force to their necks. This is not doable. So I'm really excited to see the new creations that are coming out, the new hardware that's coming that's so much lighter and so much more flexible and easier to use. Because that's also one of the things, it's scary for people. They have to put this thing on their head. They don't know what to do. They have to keep these things in their hands. We were doing a demo once, and a relatively young guy, he kept wanting to use the controls like he used his telephone. And I was like, what are you doing? And so it's funny, people want to transfer what they know, and they want to use it the way that they know other technologies that they use. So I think that the technology is changing a lot and rapidly, and I think that great things are coming, and I'm really looking forward to them.
Me too, actually. Me too. Especially for these holographic things. I don't know.
It's going
I
to be a
hope
game
somebody
changer.
will invent this, as in the movies. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about the virtual reality. So I have this thing with the motion sickness. And I know that when I go sit on the microscope and have to move a lot, sometimes even I get it from that. And I'd like to ask you, do you guys experience this? Do your patient communicate some problems regarding motion sickness?
Actually, since we created it for people to be seated, and we only use it in certain with certain hardware, right? It's 6 degrees of freedom, which means it has a faster frame rate. So we do not experience any simulator sickness. We've done study after study after study. And I think in all of our studies, there have been maybe 3 people who have experienced simulator sickness.
That is great.
It
That
really
great.
is. It's super, super important, and we get that question all the time.
I mean, for
and
me,
luckily, it really just doesn't happen.
yeah.
But I think it also has a lot to do with the fact that you're not up moving around. You're seated.
What about, you mentioned that you can control the sound environment. What about odors, for example? Can you add something to the treatment? I don't know. I think that when you stimulate the brain with different modalities, you might be able to better, I don't know, activate the areas that you want to treat, etc.
We have been in talks with some other companies who have the possibility of enhancing the experience by adding odor and other kinds of stimuli. But we haven't gone down that route yet. But it certainly is possible, and it could absolutely add to the effect.
You have sound, you have visual effects, you have odors.
Yeah.
Only the feelings are missing to have the whole range.
We're starting to add haptics
haptics.
to our
Exactly.
to our software.
This will
also.
be amazing. I don't know. Have you done VR? No? Okay.
No?
We have to do that.
Guys, I'm so sorry. I really wish I would have brought a goggle. I didn't even think about
We're
it.
coming to the Netherlands to experience.
Please do. You're always welcome.
Yeah. I love this country. It's a nice place to be
The
in.
Netherlands is a wonderful place.
Yes, it's clean and bikes are everywhere, green and nice environment, lovely people, happy.
Yes.
I don't know what is the reason, but they're doing it very well, the Netherlands. So the thing that I wanted to ask you is, do you guys also work with the government? For example, you're offering a treatment, and in Germany at least, you have these governmentally funded agencies to provide healthcare, right? And there are many companies that work also with this kind of other governmental institutions. Do you do that as well, or you're focusing more on, as you said, finding the customer or working with the patient? With the clinician of the patients. How is the kind of the business process? Let's put it that way.
Of course, we are working closely with government agencies, and we are working with insurance companies, and we're trying to work with insurance companies. We recently formed a consortium with a number of other VR-based medtech companies because we seem to all be kind of facing the same challenges, and we thought if we get together, then maybe we have a little more weight to make things move a little faster, because there really is a need right now in the Netherlands. 1 out of 6 people is working in healthcare, and by 2040, I think it will be 1 in 4 people will be working in healthcare.
Wow.
So we really need to do something, and these kind of innovative solutions like we are offering can really help solve these problems.
Definitely. Please do that. It's important. I watched a TED Talk long ago, and the TED Talk started like this, more or less. In America, by 2050, every 3rd person will have a neurodegenerative disease, and the other 2 will have to care for this person.
Yes.
So hopefully we can do something to prevent this terrible prediction, if you want.
Actually, the research that I just recently did says that India and China are really coming up in these neurodegenerative diseases, and we know the populations that they have. So these kinds of solutions are needed worldwide.
Yeah, I mean, their economy is growing, and the
Yes.
life expectancy is also extending. So unfortunately, people start suffering more from some age onwards, and then apparently also these kind of big countries are experiencing these problems. Unfortunately, the lay public is not familiar with that, and we as a humans, we are not designed, if you wish to think about 20 years from now. We want to survive today and maybe the next week, but what happens in 20 years from now, I don't care, right? So I think we should work on educating the public to kind of change this mindset, and then maybe this will give us more kind of and somehow an advantage to tackle neurodegenerative disease or other diseases that are related to aging. I mean, you see now big tech people like Jeff Bezos, they start investing money in aging, and there are people who actually treat aging as a disease and not as a natural progression of your life. And it's the developing, it's very interesting in my opinion.
I find it incredibly interesting, and I have a lot of hope. I see more and more people talking about it, and of course, I'm surrounded by certain kinds of people, but I see more and more communication about it, and I see more awareness campaigns trying to make people, especially in the Netherlands, there are regional campaigns about healthy living and why it's so important, and in one of the regions, their goal is to extend life by 5 years, by, I think, 2040. So I think that there are a lot of great initiatives that are going on to try to help the lay people better understand and take control of their health.
That is great, and I think it should be also done in schools, not only in in adulthood and stuff like this, but I think society is working slowly towards this goal, and it's fantastic, and I'm very, very happy about that. I wanted to ask you. We had our guest in our previous episode. We were talking about animal experiments and regulations, and why do we need animal research? And there is a lot of politics going on, right, in terms of the regulation of this experimentation. And I wanted to ask you, do you have any kind of pressure regarding your work from the governmental agencies, or how is the regulation of using virtual reality to treat patients, for example, in the Netherlands in particular?
We don't actually have any particular pressure from the government. It's a type 1 medical device, so it's self-certified. And until it becomes, we're working to develop a diagnostic device. And until that happens, then there are not many additional regulations that we need to meet. So I'm not sure if I'm actually answering your question.
Yeah, I think you're answering, because with the animal experiments is a little bit different.
This is completely different. We don't do animals experiments. No, Koji is treated very well in the game. We love him. We feed him. We take good care of him.
Yeah. So it's basically a regulation regarding the development of the product, kind of.
The development of the product, yes, and the efficacy of it.
And the efficacy, this is important for the treatment, yes. Do you see any other interesting development in the sense of the company with regard to? So you mentioned that you want to integrate maybe this educational aspect and maybe the haptic aspect, the odors.
And
what
biofeedback.
Okay. What else would you imagine?
I can imagine so many things. I think that one of the most exciting things that we will be integrating into Koji's Quest will be the ability for others to join you in your environment. So right now we already have it through the Clinical Viewer app. Your clinician can join you in your environment and interact with you. But ideally, imagine that your grandmother is across the country and you don't get to see her very often. You could put on your headset, she could put on her headset, and you could join her in the Garden of Zen and sit and chat, or maybe do some gardening, or listen to some music. So I think that building social aspects into our environment will be something that will really make it unique and be a game changer.
That is very interesting. And I think it will have, as you said, a lot of people who are way apart from their families, especially. I'm apart from my family and I would love to see them more often. And there are many, many other people with a similar life. So indeed, it's very interesting. How do you think about having this product that you just described? Of course, it will benefit people, but there will be some aspect probably in the negative regard. People will kind of abuse it, be I don't know about addiction in this sense, but could it be that you get addicted to this virtual reality life and you want to be there instead of the real life?
It's so funny that you asked this question. So when I went back to the United States, my research was going to be consumer identity. That's what I had been working on. I had been working on different versions of it since I was an undergrad. But when I went back to the United States I think I went back in 2008, there was this online game called Second Life. Do you know of this game?
No.
It was this virtual world where people could have avatars and they could buy clothes for their avatars. They could buy cars. They could buy houses. They could buy islands. They could do all kinds of things. And I was amazed at the fact that people were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on these virtual goods to keep up their online appearance. And I nearly switched my research topic. And I almost wish that I had, because I truly believe that maintaining your online identity is much easier than living real life. And so going back to your question, do I think that there are possible negative consequences of these kind of developments? Yes, I do. And I think that we will have to be very careful and ensure to the best of our ability that we keep those to a minimum. And I don't think that that's probably going to be in a Koji's quest, but if we're talking about the broader use of virtual reality and these kinds of environments, this is what I mean.
Exactly. Because now we have Meta, right? We
Yes.
wanted to, or the idea of Zuckerberg, right,
Yeah.
was to create similar to Second Life, like environment. I don't know. I think they have a little bit of troubles.
Yeah, they have a little bit of trouble.
regarding this aspect, but yes, and it's coming. I don't know. Maybe he will bring it out. Somebody else. Now we have AI that is everywhere and changing the game all over the place. Do you guys use some AI related things to your?
We do use AI and machine learning algorithms. But I really do think that you are absolutely right. This is going to change the game. And I believe that we as humans often, we get so excited about technologies and we adopt it before we actually understand the societal consequences. And I love technology, but I think that the prospects of what can happen can be very scary.
I spent some time thinking on this, and I in my opinion, there is a huge discrepancy between the speed of development of technology and speed of our personal development. So as a human society, we're still kind of guided by the same animal, if you wish, desires. We have love, sex, greed, risk, right? Nothing has changed for I don't know how many years of civilization, right? On the other hand, we have this kind of now it's a rapid development of technology, and we just cannot keep up. And it is dangerous.
It is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
It is. At the end of the day, we are just sophisticated animals. And I know people don't really like to think about it that way, but it really is what I believe. And I often think about what's going to happen to us as a human race, because we do have the capability of having these technological developments, and who is there to stop it? I mean, it's great. AI came out. Okay, well, it was introduced to the masses like it was something new. No, it had been going on for a long time. But okay, now more people have access to it. Who's going to stop that? Once the genie is out of the bottle, you can't really put it back in. So it's really great that now people have come out and said, oh, wait a minute, we're going to do things, we're going to put limits on it, we're going to do this and that. But how are you going to take it back? I don't actually think that it's possible. And, well, I don't want to get too far out there, but my prediction really is that computers are going to rule the world. If they don't already.
Well, maybe they are. They are doing it. I mean, if you think about our phones, we're constantly like doing something, and
all of that's being recorded.
Yeah. It's fascinating. It is indeed. And as you said, once the genie is out of the bottle, and not only this, but now we have several companies, right? You have Meta, you have Google, you have OpenAI, you have Chinese companies that they're competing to bring new features, constantly new features, and these things evolve so fast, and there is no regulation.
No regulation.
Zero regulation. And yeah, we are now having fun with ChatGPT, and it's an amazing tool. For me personally, it helps me a lot when I need to code something. Amazing,
Yes.
right? Checking some text, right? Amazing.
Yes.
And probably for many, many other things, but this is only one aspect. You have then people who can use this for negative purposes, right? Some surveillance that is not allowed, some, if you wish, weapon design, development, and it's just not regulated, and we have no idea what is going to happen, as you said, in the future. Really, really. But however, we are living in probably the most exciting times.
I think we are living in incredibly exciting times. And I am looking forward to all of the new developments. I have been having these kind of discussions with my friends, and I am not a doomsday person at all. I'm quite optimistic, actually. But if they haven't stopped and thought about it, and we're having these kind of discussions, they get really scared. And it can be very scary. So I think that we really need to be mindful and be responsible for how we introduce these tools, how we use these tools, and think about the impact that they're going to have on longevity of society.
Longevity of society. I like this very much. Longevity and health. Because it's not pleasant to be unhealthy. But 100 years old, let's say.
No.
I guess. I haven't experienced it, but I don't want to also. Sandy, what do I have to do as a neuroscience PhD student to work in a company like yours, for example? Is there anything that I can do?
Is there anything that you can do? Well, you have to be interested in wanting to help people and have a shared vision with us. Bring ambition. your knowledge, a skill set, fit in our culture. I think
nothing else.
Nothing else. I mean, I think that's quite a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I think that everyone is unique, and bringing those unique skill sets with you and your personality is what we look for, and we look for that next best person to join our team. I did some research with Wisdom of Crowds, and the best person to add to a group is optimally different.
What is a wisdom of crowds?
Oh my goodness. Wisdom of crowds is how do you create intelligent crowds? How do you get good information from a group of people? And there are some parameters around it, but that is, in essence, what it is. I mean, you want to add an optimally different person. So we did all kinds of research when I worked at the University of St. Thomas, and we would look at Fortune 500 companies, and we would ask students we would give them a list of companies, and we would ask them to put them in order from most valuable to least valuable, or we would use populations of states. And the point is that in the actual wisdom of crowds theory, there is no communication. So that's good, because when you think about, you told me you're from Bulgaria, so you're from Bulgaria and I'm from the United States. Probably your knowledge of Eastern Europe is much better than mine is, but my knowledge of the United States is much better. So if we work together, then because so much of our knowledge doesn't overlap, then when we work together, we can really do something new and different and create a better solution. However, human communication gets in the way. So we have to be able to figure out how to work around this. But coming to our team is it easy? Well, no. I mean, we have pretty high standards, but I don't know exactly what to tell you that you need to do as a neuroscience student to come and work for my company.
So it's basically so you have certain requirements, of course, certain positions, but you would encourage people with very interesting background or very different to try to apply and see how it goes.
Yes, and we have someone from the Max Planck Institute actually who works with us.
That's interesting. MPIs everywhere.
They're incredible people.
Yes. Yeah. There are incredible people among all of the people.
Yes.
I don't know if you're aware, we have now the biggest Max Planck Institute in the world. So this one that you were at and another one, they kind of merged. And now this is the biggest one. And we celebrated the 75-year anniversary this year from the society's start. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yoo-hoo, thank you. Yeah. So I was not aware of this wisdom of crowds. Okay. It's very interesting. It's kind of a synergy and serendipity, both things together, and suddenly, you have something new that you were not able to predict even before having these two components, person from Bulgaria and from the US, right?
Yes.
That is incredible. Probably we need to try it out in academia more often, having somebody in the lab that is with completely different background.
I think when you put people together with different perspectives, and you give clear boundaries about how you're going to share ideas and communicate, I think that it really creates an amazing team. So we have a team who represents at least 6 different countries, and who have all different fields of knowledge, which can be very challenging at times, but I think that it really leads to an amazing outcome.
What are the difficulties while managing people with so many different backgrounds. We have this, I asked this question to a senior professor in one of the institutes because he's dealing with developing a microscopy technique, then the software, then the biological question, all of this plus managing people and having to, you need to know about all this interpersonal relationships, communication, etc. How do you approach this kind of issue?
Well, sometimes I just crawl under the table. No, it's always a question. Is it a tech company or is it a science company?
Yeah.
And it depends. If you're talking to the scientists, it's a science-based company. And if you talk to the tech people, then certainly it's a tech company. And I say that it is a research-informed technology company. Let me be the diplomat. But it really is challenging because we can't do it without either one of them. But the way that we really try to work around that is by creating understanding and helping the developers really understand the neuroscience behind what they're doing. Because once they understand the neuroscience behind it and they understand why certain things need to be measured or why they need to be presented in a certain way, then they can more easily design the games in such a way that it is true to the science. And on the other hand, helping the scientists understand the limitation of the developers and what their parameters are within that they have to work. Then they can also, when they're designing new games and thinking about things, then they can kind of take that into account. And by sharing their knowledge, then we lessen the ruffling of the feathers, is what I would say. It makes it a calmer, kinder, gentler workspace.
That is great. I was curious about the fact that the work that you're doing is quite new, right? There's this virtual reality tools and the programs inside them, and you don't have I'm not aware of university degrees or some preparation that can give you the sufficient knowledge to work at such company. How do you find the people who work for your company?
It is true. I don't really know of any. I don't know of any specific degrees that would, just automatically make someone well qualified to work for a company such as ours. But if you come with expert knowledge in neuroscience or in game development or in AI and machine learning, then we will help you understand the rest of it. You just have to be open to learning, and that's part of what our culture is. We have a learning culture, and so sharing our experiences, sharing our knowledge, and helping others understand those different perspectives so that they can help us create better products to support the market and really develop exceptional products is what we seek.
So indeed, as you mentioned, you need to have this kind of drive, ambition, certain skill set, and then you are going to train these individuals to do their job in a best possible way, right?
I do think there probably will be some new studies that come, new fields of study, that come out that are going to be more tailored for these kinds of things in the future. I think they're becoming more and more popular.
Yes, for sure. With the current development, it's just not an option to not have it, right? Yeah. Sandy, we have been talking for roughly 1 hour, and towards the end of our conversation, I'd like to ask you if it's possible to give an advice to young people who want to transition from academia to the industry. Some kind of I mean, you already shared with us why did you do it? You wanted to experience both ways. But is there anything that people who want to do that, they really need to try fix these things then and start looking for a job, for example, in the industry?
I truly think that young scientists have many transferable skills that make them invaluable to industry, whether we're talking about going out and starting their own company as an entrepreneur, or joining a small company, or going to work in industry. I believe that passion is critical. I believe that deep knowledge of their subject is critical. I think good communication skills are very important. Their research abilities are invaluable. And I think that I do it so easily that it's hard for me to know the difference between one and the other. I mean, of course, I know when I'm at my company what my role is, but I live and breathe both of them all the time. And I think that there are just so many similarities between graduate studies and being a young scientist and being an entrepreneur, that it really isn't a difficult transition, but I think it needs to be a conscientious choice.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think this is a wonderful, wonderful advice to young people who would like to change their life and go from one field to the other, from academia to the industry. And of course, I would also encourage everybody who is willing to try it. I myself still don't know yet if I will do that, but probably at some point I would also like to transition. Sandy, thank you very much for the wonderful discussion and the insights, and it was great to learn about NeuroReality, about your products and the treatments and the willingness, most importantly, to help patients. And I'm looking forward to meet you in Amsterdam and try the virtual reality glasses.
You are very welcome. Yes. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.